A Springfield man accused of videotaping his 10-year-old neighbor was back in court today. Dana Bishop is facing several charges of invasion of privacy.
And today a judge took up some motions presented by the defense team. KZI 9 News reporter Jennifer Richardson was the only reporter in the courtroom. She was live in the studio now with more. Jennifer?
The prosecution says there are three motions the judge is considering. One has to do with statements made by the defendant before and after he was read his rights. The other is challenging the consent of a search warrant, along with one challenging the search warrant itself. Emotions were limited as Dana Bishop walked into the courtroom and sat down for Tuesday's hearing. The matter at hand, deciding whether his rights were read at the correct time and whether the consent of a search warrant is valid. The first to testify, Crystal Stutzman, the victim's mother. She recounted the day she says Bishop came to her home with concerns about her 10-year-old daughter.
I have security cameras that I put up on the side of the house because I was hearing things out there, and I can see in her room.
Stutzman then became visibly emotional when asked what she did after Bishop left her home.
I ran to the other side of the house and called my brother-in-law, who's a police officer. And I said, someone says they can see my daughter with a security camera next door, and said a bunch of bizarre things.
Two officers who responded that night were asked in court when they read him his rights and asked to search some property in his home.
He said he had seen her naked and dressing. I asked him if the video cameras recorded anything or if they just streamed live onto, some sort of television. He said they can record, but he deletes them. At that point, I had stopped and advised Mr. Bishop of Miranda rights.
Well, I remember Officer Bartlett read Mr. Bishop his Miranda rights, and he had described where these cameras were.
Because this is not the trial, the testimony laid out was abbreviated and focused on the time around when Bishop's rights were read. The judge will ultimately decide what will be admissible in the trial. And the prosecution says the judge will likely rule on those motions in the next week or two. And the trial was actually supposed to start this week, but because of these motions, it was delayed. And I'm told that it is likely delayed until October.
Now videotaping children without their knowledge is not a felony in Oregon. Is that why, in this case, Mr. Bishop is facing just misdemeanors in this case?
Yes, that is exactly right. And if you will recall, the mother there, Crystal, has been pushing for changes in the law. And just back in June, Senator Knopp introduced a bill that would increase the penalty for spying on minors in places of privacy. And we are definitely keeping on that as well.
Happening fast, even before he goes to trial.
I know.
All right, thank you.